Hey guys, Angus, and today I'm going to give you a full unboxing and also a review of this smart TV box. So when I actually got this, it was around $35.99 on Amazon, but it's actually recently moved up to $49.99. Now I will of course take this into account, but I will review this at the price I received it. So starting with the packaging, it's fairly nice. I quite like the vibe. It definitely has quite a strong brand to it. It definitely feels like a genuine brand, and also it feels quite premium as well. I think the unboxing experience is pretty decent, and the first thing of course we're presented with is the smart TV box itself. It has a quad-core CPU with 1GB of RAM and also 8GB of internal storage. Now it does actually come with a lot of pre-installed apps, so you don't have to worry about installing those because it's running on Android 5.1, which is a little bit out of date now, but for me it's absolutely fine, and it does run over a skin, so it does actually have other apps like Kodi as well. Of course, it comes with all the necessary accessories, like it comes with the AC adapter, and it also comes with a HDMI cable as well. But of course, if you're still running on an old TV, it does come with those cables as well. And then the last thing we have is the remote, but I'll get on to that later. Now I have a Sky Now TV box, and this reminds me exactly like that remote. It feels exactly the same shape and ergonomics, so it's hard to say whether they've taken it from this design, but I feel it has that same feel, which I guess is a good thing because it means it's very easy to use and very simple. And we also have some instructions as well for those that don't really know how to set this up. So the box itself is fairly small, and it definitely is not going to take up much space at all. It's pretty much the same size as an external hard drive, and it's just a little bit bigger than a Sky Now TV box. One thing I also really like is that it has tons of ports. So now let's take a closer look at what those ports are. We have two full-size USB 2.0 ports, a micro SD card port, another port for the AC adapter. As you can see, I'm slotting in an SD card. And it works absolutely fine. So this will be useful for upgrading storage and also putting on media as well. We have HDMI, another USB port, a full-size Ethernet port, even a digital optical port for people that want to plug into their surround sound system, and then that is it. But again, I think the ports are excellent because I think a lot of people are going to be connecting things like external mouses and keyboards to this. So what I'm going to do now is actually show you how simple this box is to set up. Most people should be able to figure out it's very simple. Literally all you need to do is put in the power and put in a HDMI cable as well. So once everything is set up, this is exactly what you get. You power it on and there's no real need to set up anything. And you have a really nice GUI. With the remote it's really easy to use, but when it does actually come down to using specific apps, I think the app and the software isn't really hardwired enough properly for it to be sufficient. It's also quite a fairly powerful box as well. It can actually play any 1080p footage at the full 60 frames a second, which is pretty awesome, and that works with YouTube videos as well. It even has a full web browser built into it, but to be honest, I don't think anyone really should use this because it's pretty slow, and with the remote it's going to be painfully uncomfortable to use. Unless you're using a mouse and keyboard, it'll be absolutely fine, but again, if you're using this with just the remote, it's going to be really, really slow. Of course, one of the huge benefits of having Android on any system is that you have access to literally thousands of apps, which is really great as well because it means you can download loads of extra apps that you need. So if you want to have things like iTV player or Channel 4 player or whatever you want, which is really great. So going back to what I was talking about with the remote, there are just some apps that simply do not work. This is using BBC iPlayer, and actually it's completely unresponsive. Of course I can do controls like volume, but nothing else works, which is really disappointing. I wouldn't expect every single app to be optimized for this box, but I would expect that basic apps like BBC iPlayer would work completely, and in fact it doesn't work at all. You do literally have to get a wireless mouse or keyboard, and then you can go from there, but without that you're screwed. I think for basic apps, this remote is absolutely fine. It's wireless, it's light, it's small, power efficient, it only requires 2 small batteries, and it's also quite comfortable as well. But the main problem is that it just doesn't work with a lot of apps, and that is a huge bummer. I think a lot of people are going to buy this, say, to specifically use BBC iPlayer and actually find out it doesn't work at all, which is really, really disappointing. So if you are going to use this, make sure you do have either a keyboard or mouse ready. Probably the best app on this system that's pre-installed has to be Kodi, firstly because it's really popular and also it has tons and tons of features on it, and secondly because it works really well with the remote. Of course, things like typing isn't going to be easy, but the GUI is made exactly for TV and this works great, so it's good to see that it was pre-installed. So one really weird thing about this box is that it even has notifications in the notification bar, but you can't actually access them with the remote. You actually have to have a mouse. So of course you're going to get loads of notifications that you're never going to see. I think one really misleading thing about this box is that it claims that it can even play 4K video, but right now I'm playing a 4K video and it only shows it in 1080p. So actually this box can't play 4K video. Again, it's claimed to be that it can play 4K, but it can't, which I think is really misleading and unfortunate as well, because I think some people would buy this box and spend a lot of money on it just so they can play 4K video. It's not a huge bummer because 1080p footage is still fine, but it's a big feature that a lot of people still would want. So if you are going to buy this box for 4K footage, definitely note this down because it cannot play 4K. Maybe in some apps it can play 4K, but this definitely can't on YouTube. So overall, I think this box is okay. I think that it's a good product and I like how it has lots of features like Kodi installed and also has tons of ports. It can play 60 FPS footage, free HDMI cable, but there are a lot of other things that are a little bit disappointing as well. Like it doesn't even have full-size USB 3.0 ports, can't play 4K, the remote can be annoying and also the UI isn't adapted as well. And some of the apps just actually are completely useless. So overall, I think I'm going to give this 3 stars out of 5. I'm not going to give it 4, mainly because I found the performance wasn't as good as I thought. For 50 quid, this is actually quite an expensive box. Even for 30 quid, things like the Now TV box are quick and responsive, but I didn't find this to be that snappy at all. So there's my full review of this box. Of course, if you did enjoy it, definitely be sure to leave it with a thumbs up, and thanks very much for watching.